All right, here we... See, I went to turn on my turn signal, went for the stalk. Dumbest decision ever. Now you might be asking yourself, when is the absolute worst possible time to review a Tesla product? And that answer would almost certainly and unequivocally be the beginning first quarter of 2025. But with the realities of Tesla's lack of press fleet and kind of media support, I have to take advantages of when I can have access to certain cars. Also, I told myself that I was going to fill in some of the gaps that have been existing on the channel over the last few years. We haven't had 911 videos on the channel, we haven't had Corvette videos on the channel, and we haven't had Tesla videos on the channel. So we're in the process of rectifying that at the worst possible time. But anyway, my name is Matt, this is Downshift, and we're going to cover the best and the rest of the Tesla Model 3. Now, the first con that we have to talk about is the cultural aspect. Now, this is an objective, unbiased, and professionally run car review channel, so we don't usually dive into politics or the cultural response to any of the products. We review the products for what they are. But seeing as this is an enormous elephant in the room, we're going to touch on it quick and then get it out of the way so we can talk about the car. But we are going to leave the politics out of it and discuss it as a personal economics issue. And since this is a sensitive topic, I'm going to be sticking to what I wrote for myself now on my phone. It won't surprise anyone watching this video to hear that Teslas are under fire right now. Cars are being defaced, vandalized, and in some cases destroyed. I of course do not condone these actions, but as a person that exists in America capable of empathy, I can understand the rationale of the motivation behind them. But still, I don't agree in defacing anyone's personal property. That is wrong. Anyway, the concern then is that you're buying a car. To most people, the second largest purchase that you'll make in your lifetime. And the trepidation of spending that money and the headache of having to worry about your asset being vandalized or destroyed would be enough for me personally to go in a different direction with my money. Purely on the basis of wanting to insulate myself from the risk of my property being abused or me being chastised while I'm out living my day-to-day life. We've seen a mass sell-off from Tesla customers offloading their cars for either ideological reasons or simply because they don't want to deal with the headache that I've just described. Some who love their cars are rebadging them as Hondas or Mazdas or something to avoid any of the blowback, or putting anti-Elon bumper stickers on the backs of the cars for reasons of embarrassment for what the vehicle represents, or just to avoid the cultural ramifications of simply owning and driving their personal vehicle. Again, this is a car review channel, so I'm not here to argue what's right and wrong. That's for you to decide. What I'm here to do is shed light on the reality of the ownership experience in late March, early April of 2025 as it is today. At least right now, buying one of these cars is not as simple as just buying one of these cars. Now, if you're comfortable with all the extracurricular business, then by all means. But if you're concerned about your personal property being attacked and are wondering about alternatives, there are several cars that I've reviewed that I believe would be incredibly solid alternatives, largely coming from Hyundai Kia, the Korean twins, or BMW. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 and the Kia EV6, great value plays, great all-around EVs, great alternatives to this. But if you've got some extra money, the BMW i4 and i5 are very good. And like all used EVs, they're more affordable used than they are new. Now, I know that was a long and touchy subject, but I do view it as my job to help educate you as much as possible when you're going to go and spend your money, so you can be armed with as much information to make the best decision for you and your family as possible. But with all that removed, let's talk about this car, because this is a car channel after all. Now, the second thing, or the first thing to do with the car that we'll discuss, is the styling. Now, last year in 2024, we got a refresh. That's what we're looking at here. And it does look better than it did the year before, but it's still a little bit frumpy in my eyes. In fact, most things that are in this class, the Ioniq 6 also is a little bit frumpy. The best looking in the class would have to be the Polestar 2. But let's talk about the update here. Now, up front, you do get new headlights and a new front fascia, and our car is wrapped in stealth gray, which is a pretty solid color, especially with these 18-inch Aero wheels. And to be honest, this is the first time I'd take the smaller 18-inch wheels, because the upgraded 19-inch wheels that are $1,000 are not as attractive in my opinion. But the profile is pretty identical from what it was last year or last generation maybe. And the taillights are new and the rear bumper is new. Again, it's not bad or ugly, it's just not particularly handsome or stylish. It's just kind of, when I think of car, as it were to exist in like Grand Theft Auto when you don't want to buy the rights to a specific brand, it just looks kind of like this. It's a car. And if you've spent any time in Teslas before, this next point isn't going to surprise you, but to use an industry term, the interior usability is what I would call suboptimal. There is a steep and frustrating learning curve when you first get in this car, and that's largely because there's no buttons or switchgear of really any kind. You want to adjust your wing mirrors, go into the screen and then use the knobs on the steering wheel. A volume knob doesn't exist except for on the steering wheel. There's no vent toggles, you have to go into the screen for that. You want to open the glove box, you're going to have to go into the screen for that. It's this oversimplification. There's no head-up display, there's no cluster. We'll talk about that in technology, but it's just everything is now in this screen. And it just is a little bit cumbersome, but there are some improvements that they've made to the cabin experience here. Like for one, quality and build seems noticeably nicer than in the previous car. It's still not a luxury car, at least not in my eyes, but it's getting better. One of the things that puts it over the top for me is the ambient lighting loop that surrounds the entire car. That's just a nice little thing. And that wood dash accent thing has now been replaced with the textile, almost soundbar looking thing, which again keeps it feeling more Scandinavian and upscale. The center console doesn't feel like it's going to break. It's not wrapped in gloss black plastic that scratches at the first sign of a human being in the car. And the seats up front, they're heated and cooled now. And if you want to spend an extra $1,000, you can get a white interior, which is probably what I'd do, even though it's not the most sensible choice. But overall, the interior does feel a step up from the previous car. It's just the classic Tesla stuff. There's too much in the screens. Like, I would like a stalk here to be able to change lanes and signal without having to press a button on the steering wheel. And since we just talked about, we might as well talk about technology. Now, I'm going to talk about the downsides of the tech here on this side of the video, but when we talk about the pros, there's definitely more stuff that we'll have to talk about technology-wise. But here again, the tech downsides are the fact that you don't have a head-up display, which is kind of annoying because you don't have a gauge cluster in front of you, which means you again have to look to your right to see things like your speed. They've placed it as well as they can to keep it as in front of you as possible, but you know what would be even more in front of you is if it was in a cluster or a head-up display. This car is begging for at least one of those things. You also don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. This is not new. We see this from all the bespoke EV startups. Rivian does this. Even GM is doing this in their EVs. And I get why they're doing it. They have to optimize route planning for their, batteries and when you have to charge and all that stuff. But I'm not always driving cross country. Sometimes I'm just driving to work for 30 miles and I want to have CarPlay. And then one of the strangest and most egregious is you have great cameras for backup and you've got blind spot cameras and side view cameras, but you don't have a front view camera, or at least not that I've found, and you definitely don't have a top-down 360 camera that you have in a mid-grade Hyundai. What? And like any modern car, there's just a handful of little nitpicks. There's two that I really ran into with my short time with the car today. The first is that I can't seem to find a way to turn off one pedal driving. You guys will know that I really don't like that feature. I get that some people do, and you'll probably get used to it if you own the car, but me, I'm the school of thought of coasting is the mosting, and I would like to be able to coast in my EV. So that's a little bit annoying. The other thing is going back to the screen thing, or the lack of head-up display. When you turn your turn signal on, which again is a button on the steering wheel and is dumb, but you get a blind spot camera like you would in a Hyundai, or if you're turning right in a Honda, you get a blind spot camera. It's a nice feature to have, but they've put it on the far side of the screen or thereabouts, so you still have to take your eyes off the road in front of you to then check. So you might as well just turn your head and actually check with yourself because you have all this glass, so your visibility is actually pretty good. I also realized that you can change where you want to put the blind spot turn signal. So you can put it over here closest, which is better, but still would be best here. It's tiny little things, but with all these nitpicks out of the way, let's talk about where the Model 3 shines, because it does. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about on the pro side of the video, it's a big one, is the driving experience. This is a better driving experience than the old car, full stop. The ride specifically was the thing that needed addressing. This, and especially the old Model Y, where it felt like riding on rocks. And they've done a great job in addressing the entire kind of refinement feel in here. It feels much more sophisticated from a suspension perspective. It's also a lot quieter in here. You've got acoustic laminated glass throughout the entire thing, so it's genuinely quiet and supple and like luxury tier in here. They say it's 20% more quiet universally. Throttle calibration is also less jumpy, less attacky. It just feels more better calibrated, like it builds better in a more understandable way. I'm not going to get whiplash driving this thing to work through traffic. The steering inputs are a little bit more complete and one-to-one. I still don't really feel anything through the front, but I turn the wheel and it's going to go. It does feel peppy and sporty. We'll talk about that in a minute. It just feels overall like a more complete car than it did before. I would like maybe a propulsion sound. I think maybe you can program that in. I think I've seen some people online do that, but the big thing that stands out to me is it's just all kind of better. Now, I do hate the one pedal drive. This is a personal thing for me. I just don't like it. It's never going to be my preference. And the fact that you can't turn it off, or at least I've not found a way to turn it off, annoying, like pretty annoying. But again, that's personal preference. It's quick, it's quiet, it's pretty good behind the wheel. And the thing that you're all wanting to hear about, let's talk about EV stuff. Now in 2025 here, they killed off the standard range of the Model 3, which means you're gonna get an 80 kilowatt hour battery as standard now. There's a long range rear wheel drive where you'll get 363 miles, according to the EPA, and in your long range all wheel drive, which is the one we have here and the one I would recommend, you'll get 346 miles of range. And that's only 17 miles of less range, so you might as well get the all wheel drive and the added traction and power that comes with it. The closest rival then is the Ioniq 6, which is getting 342 miles of range, but that's only in rear-wheel drive, so less than this Model 3 in all-wheel drive. And the BMW route, if you want to spend the extra money, the i4 that I mentioned earlier barely cracks 300 in rear-wheel drive, and of course, keep in mind that your real-world range experience will vary, but the Teslas still carry the title for the most efficient battery chemistry and motor efficiency if you exclude Lucid. And then there's the whole public charging infrastructure, which Tesla and their supercharger network is still the benchmark, and that's why even though you have to share with a bunch of other brands now, it's probably still the best way to go. And we touched on this a second ago when we were talking about the behind the wheel experience, but I do want to focus a little bit more on performance for a second. Now, this is not, the one that we're in is not the hardcore performance trim. It's the long range all wheel drive, but it still feels plenty peppy, and it does it without having the most power in the class. You get the dual motors here, so you get 394 horsepower, 377 pound-feet. It seems a little misleading, kind of like Porsche stuff, because, you know, a Polestar 2 is bringing like 420 horsepower or something like that, so more, and it doesn't necessarily feel like way quicker than this. But overall, the Model 3 here feels quick, and it feels nimble and athletic too, and that's kind of the big thing. This is barely over 4,000 pounds for the dual motor, which for an EV is pretty svelte. It's also got a nice chassis. The chassis is more isolated, and the suspension improvements really help it out. So the chassis is better, which means the suspension can be better. Everything is retuned to be just a little bit more supple, more sophisticated, and it handles itself and composes itself like a more mature car, you could say. But of course, if you do want a more hardcore performance one, there is the Model 3 Performance, which is like G80 M3 performance level. But honestly, I can't imagine needing more power and performance day to day than what you're getting here in the long-range dual motor. And they've pretty well optimized the cargo area here for the Model 3. Now, in terms of the trunk, it's a powered opening, which is nice, but thanks to the shape of the roof and the fact that the entire thing is glass and comes to about here, we're losing a little bit of cargo practicality in terms of the space that's open. You would have a little bit more space in a conventional truck of a sedan that goes a little bit further forward. It's easier to put things in. So this feels a little bit more horizontal or lateral to get things in, but you've got 21 cubic feet of space with the seats up. We fold the seats down, they fold 60-40, and you've got even more. You've even got little bins on either side, but it doesn't even stop there. You go up to the front of the car, and then you have a frunk, something that you're kind of not really getting in the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6, and you're not getting in the BMW. And this is another 3 cubic feet. It's not huge, but it's big enough to put a small backpack, and well, they've optimized the space, that's for sure. And you'll remember earlier on the con side of the video when we talked about some of the interior usability and kind of some of the cumbersomeness of putting everything in a screen, and also the technology downsides of having everything in one screen and having no cluster and no head-up display. But if you are gonna put everything in your car into one screen, I kind of want it to be a Tesla screen because this one works pretty well. The screen itself is huge. It's 15.4 inches, and they've cut down on the bezel, which makes it look bigger and more expensive. The processing speed is great. The cameras are not 360, but they're pretty good resolution and pretty helpful, and the radar is also pretty helpful. It'll even detect lane lines or parking lot lines and people that approach your car to talk to you. You've got a dual wireless charger. Your safety suite is pretty good. Autopilot is the one that I would go for. I would not spend the extra $8,000 for FSD. It's not full self-driving, it's a lie. And it's also not even the best in the industry anymore. Blue Cruise from Ford seems better lately, and also Super Cruise I think is probably one of the best in the game. It's good, don't get me wrong, but it's not what it used to be. And people need to know that Tesla's not the only one in the game with autopilot anymore. But overall, like I said, if everything is going to be in the screen, this is a pretty good one. It's fast, it's really responsive. I don't really have a problem with the actual screen itself. And as we head into the rear seats, it's pretty good, but not perfect. Like for one, you've got this flat floor, which is nice, but the floor seems a little bit high. So as you can see, my knees are resting up a little bit high. I don't really have a lot of lower leg support, but I do have dual map pockets. I've got a third climate zone back here, USB-Cs, and this new helper screen. That's new for last year, the new 2024 update. And I can control a bunch of stuff. I've got heated seats back here. I can even move this seat out of the way. I can stream media. I can play games back here. The entire roof is glass and it's kind of UV protected and tinted, so it does feel pretty open, even though my head and my nub would scrape the glass and are scraping the glass a little bit. So they've done things to maximize the space to make it feel more expensive, more spacious than it actually is. We've got suede door liners here and the same ambient light rimming that continues into the back seat. So again, pretty good, not perfect, but still pretty good. I should also mention, the Ioniq 6 back seat is going to be way bigger. The BMW i4, pretty similar size, but if you need more leg room, if you're a taller individual, or maybe you Uber or something, then a Hyundai Ioniq 6 is going to give you a lot more space in the back. And last thing that we'll talk about is the almighty dollar, aka the price. What does this Model 3 cost, and therefore what value does it represent? Now, since they got rid of the standard range, it's long range only. So long range rear wheel drive starts at $42,000, and these prices are taken in late March of 2025 and are subject to change with the winds, it seems. But a long-range rear-wheel drive starts at $42,490. A long-range all-wheel drive starts at $47,490. And if you want the hardcore performance version, it's just under $55,000. Now, the Hyundai is similar money depending on spec, and the BMW is of course going to be more money. The Polestar, though, is the interesting one. At least it looks like on the website you can only get it maxed out, so then it's more than the BMW. So the Tesla then still kind of represents and holds that crown of value king. It gets you the most range, it gets you the best public charging infrastructure, although pretty much everything can go to a Tesla charger now as long as you've got an adapter. But it's got every feature that you could possibly, well, that's not true because you don't have a head-up display, you don't have a gauge cluster, and it's really cumbersome to use the interior stuff. There's pros and cons, people, is the point that I'm trying to say, but if you want the most range and the most performance for the least amount of money, Tesla still kind of has it. And there's a couple little odds and ends that we should cover before we go for our drive. Now, the gear selector, you've got a backup one up here. It's hard to see, but there's a PRND. There's a backup up here. But what they want you to do is use a gear selector like this. Forward, backward, tap to park. But they've also got a beta rolled out in your Dynamics tab that says Auto Shift. And what that's going to do is it's going to use the cameras and the radar to detect where you are. If you've pulled into your garage, for example, and obviously there's no way to go forward, it'll automatically put you in reverse. Again, not really something that I would probably use or think is necessary at all, because it's never been cumbersome for me to shift into reverse or drive. And to be honest, I don't really want a computer guessing what it wants me to do. Also, I mentioned before, your glove box is in the screen, and it's magnetic and very loud when you close it. And Tesla's app is still one of the best in the game. You can do everything from your phone, to the point where most people don't even carry these little cards around anymore. They just use their phone to operate as a key, and you can do everything like precondition, vent it, honk at stuff, turn on Sentry mode to use, the car as a dash cam to record any goings on, like people trying to maybe, vandalize your car. But it's a great app. It's probably the best in the business. Tesla is also very proud of their new 17-speaker audio system, which, yeah, it does sound pretty good. And as you could probably imagine, there is no start-stop button anywhere in the car. You just sit down, put your foot on the brake, and then you can select whether you want to go into drive, or reverse, or park, or if you want to use the backups, or if you want the computer to decide what you're going to do. And as we mentioned before, things like climate is of course in your screen. You get to this bigger climate screen here, and you've got a couple different options. You've got a dog mode, which will run the air conditioning or the interior climate controls and put up a little note on the screen that says it's being kept at whatever temperature it is, and my owner will be back soon. So, Oscar from The Office doesn't break your rear window with the tire iron and, let your dog out. but there's also camp mode, which basically functions at the same thing, and the battery will stay on and run the climate control until it reaches 20%. You've also got some security stuff that will be disabled, so if you're walking around your car on the campsite, it's not going to beep and ding and turn lights on and, you know, wake you up or other campers around you. It's a pretty nice feature. But with all those little nitpicks covered, let's go for a bit of a drive. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. All right, here we... See, I went to turn on my turn signal, went for the stalk. Dumbest decision ever. Okay. Tesla Model 3, long range all-wheel drive. It's not slow. It's not at all slow. You know, I've been driving this car around a bit this morning, just getting a feel for it, and the thing that stands out to me, like a lot of things do, but one of the things that I've found about myself, and maybe this is a personal thing, life is about a journey of learning self-awareness. And the thing that I've learned about myself is that the Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive makes me drive like a baboon. Like, I don't drive Ioniq 5s and Ioniq 6s like this. I don't drive BMWs like, I'm just like, it feels quick and it feels nimble and kind of darty, and like, it makes me drive faster than I would normally do in basically any other car, which is, you know, maybe a good thing to say about the car. It's probably a bad thing to say about what would happen to my license. It would have a lot of points off and it would get pretty expensive, potentially. But anyway, let's talk about the Model 3. I'm gonna be honest, the things that I like about this car, I really like, and the things that I don't like about this car, I cannot stand. I can't stand not having a turn signal. It doesn't make sense to me that there's no head-up display and no gauge cluster. Like, I know that this is obviously a thing that's existed for however many years now, but this is just give us some stuff that normal legacy automakers would give us. You know, I want to be able to like turn the little knob here and adjust my wing mirrors. Just some conventional legacy automaker stuff in here would go such a long way, because the things that they've improved have gone a long way. They have. Like the interior center console here feels so much sturdier. It's not that gloss black that scratches immediately. It's well thought out. The storage is optimized. It feels more high end. Now, this is a fairly new used car, so I don't know how it'll look in 70,000 miles. Who knows? But it does genuinely feel more solid, more refined, and a better car overall. The interior here is quieter. It's like, I think they said 20% quieter universally in here. The suspension makes the ride so much better than it was last generation, I guess you could say. We'll wait for the Model Y, because that was really the one that really like grinded my gears, you could say. That ride was terrible. So we'll see what they do with the Model Y. But if they do to the Model Y what they did here, I think I'm going to be pretty impressed with the step that they've taken. It's still not like, well, I shouldn't say that. It's definitely bordering on luxury tier, I would say. It's quiet, it feels refined, the throttle calibration feels like it's more manageable if you want to drive smoother. The thing that I don't like, it doesn't feel like it's snapping your neck, is what I mean to say. You don't have to have it in chill mode. See, again, I'm going to go and change lane and I want to press the stalk. Now I'm all thrown off. I'm all charged up now about the turn signal thing. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, power calibration. It's more refined. It builds a little bit more naturally. It just feels more mature, while still feeling like youthful. I'm getting like a youthful vibe from this. I'm driving faster and a little bit more sprightly than I usually would in my old ripe age of 31. But the thing that I don't like, aside from the turn signal thing, is that I can't seem to find a way to turn off one pedal drive, like, or just like regen braking. And again, I have to press the stupid button. I'm just not a one pedal drive person. That's just not my preference, my taste. I get some people like it. I'm sure you would get used to it. But like, I was trying to pull this thing off of, because they had it, the dealership that I borrowed it from, they had it like on the curb, and I wasn't going to drive this thing over a curb, obviously. So I'm trying to like finesse it around other cars, and it just takes like, it's probably better because I can do smaller, more minute controls, but the fact that it like, I look so jerky backing it off the thing because, you know, I can't just like let it coast or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm nitpicking here. I do also feel like I'm rambling. So I guess zooming out, there's a lot to be said about the cultural ramifications of owning and driving a Tesla in early, you know, Q1, Q2 of 2025 here. But we're a car review channel and we review cars. And the fact is, this car is very solid. It just is. You can tell that it's definitely a little bit more mature. Some of the, you know, early teething problems have been sussed out. It definitely feels like a more complete car. And at the price that it's offered at, especially not considering like rebates and stuff, it still represents the best value. If you want the most reliable charging infrastructure, again, some of the stuff is being opened up to other brands, but that's definitely still a pro here. The range for dollar is still a pro. The performance is very good. You can get heated and cooled seat. You get basically all the features, right? So overall, it's kind of hard to complain. The stuff that I shouldn't say it's hard to complain because it's easy to complain about some stuff, but the stuff that it's good at, it's very good at, and the stuff that it's bad at, it's very bad at. So with that, that's the Tesla Model 3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was an interesting one to shoot. So leave it down in the comments what you think, and we'll see you in the next one.